What's up? What's up? Welcome to episode 101 of oh no, it's 101.
Happening?
It's this one.
It's 101.
101 episode of Value Town. I'm ChanManV and he's Noxious, and it's just the two of us. We're having a bro episode this week.
I know. What's going on with that? Did you just not find any guests to come on,
Well,
Chan? What is this?
Orange was supposed to come on, but then he had a family emergency, and it's just hard getting somebody last minute. You know how it is. I can't pull off miracles every single week.
Yeah, I can confirm. It's actually pretty tough to get people.
The gang wars
on
is
the
going
show
on
sometimes, especially in the holiday season too, right? Like there's just so much going on, and just in general. So I'm pretty happy nonetheless that you and I are here together.
I'm telling you, man, we're having a bro episode. Yeah. You know what that means, guys? That means that we get to talk about our janky decks. Like this episode.
And no one's here to criticize
right.
us.
Nobody's here to laugh at our decks and that sort of thing. So you guys, it's going to be a little bit of a off the cuff episode, but we do have a lot of fun decks to talk about, which we'll do in just a second. Talk a little bit about meta, maybe just what we've been seeing, probably briefly. Got some cards to talk about. Mekkatorque Workshop. Noxious has a couple, and we've got a viewer that has a couple too for us to take a look at. And then we've got some questions from patrons and other folks that have emailed them to valuetown@chanmanv.tv. So I can't wait to read those out. But our week in Hearthstone, we're going to start off as usual. Oh yeah, Smilestone too, guys. We still got the Smilestone milestone. So
the Smilestone milestone.
That's right. We'll be doing that too.
Yeah.
But our week in Hearthstone. So what have you been up to this week? Anything
Okay,
cool?
so I feel like overall this week I've been taking it more lightly. Like I've been loving the meta personally. I'm really happy about the way. Like, I'm really happy in the state of Hearthstone right now. It's not a common consensus. I feel like among the casual crowd, there's a lot of disgruntlement, but I think it's not because of the metagame necessarily as much as it is because of other factors, which we can touch on a bit later. But I've been playing nothing but janky decks. I've changed my streaming schedule to be more in line with what my dad duties require of me. That is something that
I know, man. I know.
I've had to do that. I think it was very much needed. And it's been fun so far. I mean, I can just play 2 hours of a jank deck and I'm enjoying it, and that's my stream for the day. That's going to be my schedule of the day, and I think people enjoy that too. They notice I'm not burnt out. I don't have enough time to get burnt out on any one deck and any one ladder grind, so it's been great. Yeah,
it's definitely all about quality than quantity sometimes. It's like, as long as you're keeping yourself sane and trying to, keep the game enjoying, actually enjoyable for yourself. That's all that really matters. That's.
I'm gonna stop you right there for a second. Your title on Twitch is Unfiltered End of 2016 Special with Destiny, Richard Lewis, and ChanManV.
No wonder everybody is coming to see it. Oh god, man.
It's a scam.
Right,
you should probably switch that.
Yeah. Let me change it. Oh gosh, this is definitely an off the hook. Everybody's like, "Oh my god, unfiltered? What?"
No, man. Unfiltered is not today. Not today.
It was yesterday, guys. You can watch the VODs later.
Actually, yeah, do that. If you're here for Unfiltered, just help yourself.
Help yourself.
And watch the VODs.
Help yourself and watch the VODs.
Yeah.
Okay, let me get this. How do I update this thing?
You changed the name?
I changed already. I did. Okay, there we go. Yeah. Look at all these people. All these people are from Unfiltered. Sorry about that, guys. Sorry about that. It's actually Value Town. So I just posted part 2 of Unfiltered VODs. Go watch it if you haven't already on YouTube. Skamaz. Yeah, exactly.
Indeed.
But yeah, so that's good to hear that you're having a good time playing some cool decks. What kind of decks have you been playing?
I mean, I've been trying out a lot of the Inner Fire Priests. I've tried out Evolve Shaman. I've played a ton of Evolve Shaman, dude, and I think that deck is bonkers.
It's good, right?
I think it's one of the most. It's got to be one of the most underrated decks in the meta.
I've been saying that totally. Yeah,
but I can't believe how few people in the competitive scene really take it seriously. I think that deck is a real thing. It is something you could bring in a competitive environment on ladder at least, and do very well with. It is, after all, a mid-range deck. With a slight twist. So it keeps all the strengths of Shaman and doesn't really lose out on anything.
Yeah, I think the only reason it's not played is what we talked about before. There's that mid-range shaman and that aggro shaman might just be a tiny bit better because of the pace of it. But if you get evolve, if you can keep evolve, or you can get doppelganger like on turn 6 or 7, then you're gonna win. Like you have this mid-range, like this mid-game burst that not very many decks I can think of right now have even the capabilities of doing. And that's on top of all that early game that every single shaman has right now.
Yeah, they all keep the same shell of tunnel trogging, you know, you to death.
Yeah, tunnel trogging. And I think yours is a little different variety because I took the Jade, a little bit more of the Jade package approach versus the Spirit Claw and you know, the spell damage, you know, just getting the 3 damage from the Spirit Claw. But yeah, it's, I think when you add the Bloodlust, it's like that evolve play into the Bloodlust finishes games almost every single time I get it. So it's extremely hard to deal with. There's like how many classes can, outside of maybe Dragon Fire Potion, can clear 3 6-drops consistently?
Pretty much none. And even Dragon Fire, oftentimes, like one of the 3 6-drops is often going to stay alive afterwards. So, you know, one of them has to have 6 health and you're good to go. I think the biggest thing about the combo for me is just how, like, unexpected it is, right? It's a thing that people play nowadays, and it's kind of known, but the beginning of the deck looks so much like every other shaman that once that comes down, no one knows what's up. And that's the biggest, I guess, giveaway of how strong the deck is the surprise factor of it is powerful, and the gimmick of it isn't really noticeable because the consistency isn't that bad. Your deck still works out on average better than other decks, and Bloodlust is still a game winner even without Evolve. You don't even need to get the the doppelgangsters onto the board to get the Bloodlust value.
Yeah, and I mean, I think it's evolved over time. It's evolved over time.
It's evolved.
My deck's evolved over time, and you know, I'm to the point where I add things from below too, just because just getting some value from toteming is good. And like you said, like classes, especially like Reno Lock and the classes that do have the removal, they're very selective. They're trying to get max value. And so when you just throw down totems, they're just like, I'm not gonna use my removal on those low value cards. But then you just bloodlust them, and you're just like, oh fuck, that sucked, man.
As far as metagame goes, though, like the most played deck this week, according to the meta stats that were collected by some people in the competitive Hearthstone subreddit, are Reno Log, Aggro Shaman, and Pirate Warrior still. They're the only decks that are kind of above 10%, which is interesting because Rogue, from every single discussion I have with everyone, is considered the most powerful. However, I think the deck is hard enough to play that it's not your go-to for ladder climbing. Like, that's what people are afraid of, probably, is the inconsistency that it occasionally runs into, where you don't get the right draw, and you don't know how to navigate the matchups with those awkward hands. So Rogue is still sitting, pretty at 832% of the metagame, which is a pretty good chunk above something like Reno Priest, which is at 3%, but it's not as played as I expected.
Yeah, Reno Priest. Trump, last week, right? Obviously we were talking about decks with him, but I know he's been loving the Reno Priest recently. So I actually brought that just to take a look at too. But yeah, you're right. Anything that does well against aggro right now, I think is what's working in tandem with aggro in terms of the meta. Sure. Yeah, so Rogue's been definitely a popular thing. I don't know how many times I run into the questing adventurer into, buff into Edwin Van Cleef, and it's just like GG right there. I can't do anything about it.
The thing with Reno Priest is it's got so many good matchups across the board. Like, one of the notorious bad ones is Reno Lock, which is kind of what keeps it in check. But against mid-range Shaman, for instance, like, that's a deck you're happy to run into. You've got like a 55-45, and since there's, a pretty good chunk of them on the ladder, that's a good matchup for you to run into. Surprisingly, though, Reno Priest struggles against Evolve Shaman, which we just talked about. So it'll beat aggro, it'll beat mid-range, but if you give it Evolve Shaman, oops, there we go. Now here's this 3/6 drops board you have to deal with. I don't have a Twisting Nether in my deck. I don't have the luxury of clearing that stuff.
They got Dragonfire Potion for one of them, but not for the second one. And I went in the Jade package, so the Jade Golems even put pressure on him. So priests have a hard time against that evolve deck for me. So that's usually not too much of an issue.
Yeah, I think Reno Priest also started seeing more play when Reno Mage came up. Like we had this.
I know.
Did you like the pocket? Understand. I think last week's meta of the week was like, "Oh, Reno Mage is good. Let's play that stuff." And Reno Priest comes up, says, "Oh, there's Reno Mage around. Let me just queue into it.
Let's just bring up the
and
Reno
heal
Priest
myself."
Here. At least there's different versions of it for sure. And I brought up more of a dragon version just because the dragon version tends to do well against aggro because of the taunts that are inherently part of the dragon package, like Guardian and Wormrust Agent. So this is the one I know Trump's been playing. He might have tweaked it a little bit, but I know Trump's played a lot of this, and I tried playing it too. And I've played a lot of just the priest we talked. Well, a dragon priest, definitely a more refined dragon priest than we talked about last week. And I don't know, when I played this deck, I just feel like, God, I wish I had two of these. Like, there's so many of those cards. Right? It's like, God, I wish I had two, Shadow Word Pains or Shadow Word Deaths or Twilight Guardians or whatever it is, right? And so I actually feel I know it might not be right because I haven't played enough of this, but I just feel this deck is inferior just to the straight up Dragon Priest.
I'll say something though, which is important to keep in mind, and that is once you get past rank 5, the metagame changes, or at least it should. The landscape of the metagame changes the higher you go, and it includes less of the quote-unquote brain-dead aggro decks, right? You have more of those, mid-range decks, of the Reno decks, and that's where Reno Priest will shine, where Dragon Priest may struggle a bit more. But if you're aiming to climb from like the bottom of rank 20 all the way up to rank 5, it's probably better to play a Dragon Priest straight up, because it's less gimmicky, more consistent, and the range of stuff you're going to hit is likely going to be exactly what you want, right? Like the more aggressive lists, they're going to be fine against. So it's really important to consider that the Dragon Priest will excel where Reno, like for one of the matchups where Dragon Priest is better than the Reno Priest is like Evolve Shaman. Like that's one of the ones where Rogue that's the case.
Rogue too.
However, like Reno Priest is going to be slightly better against something like Freeze Mage than Dragon Priest. You don't see much of it right now, but there was a pocket of time where that was a thing.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, as long as you know how to play, like the Freeze Mage, as long as you had Shadow Word Pain, you were pretty good against the Freeze Mage. But so I mean, once you learn all these nuances, it's not as bad. But I do agree with that. There's a certain point where this deck is better than the straight Dragon, but I think it actually extends into Legend. I think once you get into Legend, this deck is better than the straight Dragon, because I'm still climbing past rank 5. I still climb much quicker with just the straight Dragon Priest than this one.
Interesting.
You still see aggro Shaman. You still see,
because Pirate Warrior is really, really good against Dragon Priest.
Yeah, it is.
And like Reno Priest has like a 50-50 with it. It's kind of a coin flip. Whereas I think Dragon Priest just gets steamrolled, right? Like you look at your minions get destroyed.
It's not as bad as you think. Like once you've played it a ton, you kind of feel like it's probably like I'd say 40-60 or something like that.
Yeah, it's 40-60
45 or something. I mean, it's not bad by any means, because if you can get Wormrust Agent, the worst thing that can happen to you is if they get the pirate opening into the Fiery War Axe, which it seems like it happens freaking like almost every game.
It's every game, right?
Yeah,
it's
it really feels
a hard mulligan.
But if you can get to Twilight Guardian without taking too much, have taken too much damage, and then that followed into like a Draconid operative, then it just swings around. It's just on top of them. So as long as you can deal with that, the Frotling Berserker, I don't feel like people are playing it as much because I'm not having to deal with it.
Some people have been cutting it, man.
Yeah, so it's like, really? That card.
It's a card that I laughed at some people for telling me that I was an idiot for cutting it, because I've seen lists now that cut it and they replace it. So they'll play like Dragon Pirate Warrior, right? We're gonna go for like the hybrid mid-range aggro list that everybody tends to play. And for a while, Frothing twice was an inclusion, double Fierce Monkey with Curator at the top end, and that was kind of your general shell. Now people are saying, you know what? I don't need Frothing. I don't need Fierce Monkey. Let me add in 2 Reapers, 2 upgrades, and sprinkle in another aggro tool in the mid game like Bloodcell Cultists. Like it just gets with more and more weapon buffs in the Dragon Shell with the rest, but we're taking out Curator, so suddenly the pacing of the deck changes. Some people have been splashing Grom, and all of that is happening while Frothing goes away. It's still not the trend, though. I'd say that at the top level, people still value Frothing more than not, but it's been a discussion. I wouldn't say it's like a debate, because a debate I would be framing it wrong. I would be saying like, oh, it's a 50-50. No, it's not. It's still like very much like a 90-10, but there's a discussion about it.
Yeah.
And some people are just not liking it as much.
Yeah, I think it's more one of those things that people mulligan against the Frothing Berserker. So they'll keep things like, I don't know, whatever it is, Swipe, or they'll keep, Feral Rage, or I mean, I keep Ancient of, or not Ancient, sorry, Shadow Word Pain, or even Shadow Word Death. I don't even feel bad. If that thing gets to 5 easily, like very, very easily. So that ends up killing the Frothing Berserker a lot. And if they lose the Frothing Berserker, that's actually a bridge point for them. They need that card to live a turn. So if it doesn't live a turn, then I feel like the game like flips halfway. It actually does flip halfway for you. And you're very much in the game at that point. So it's kind of interesting. But anyways, looking at this Reno Priest, I'll just like kind of list it out. It's all the dragons that we all know. It's got the Mistress in the beginning, help out, and a Potion of Madness to help out against early stuff. Got the Brand, of course, with the Cabal Courier and the Kazakus, just for all that awesome value. Let's see, what else does it have here? It's got a Ysera at the end, Chill Maul at the end. It's just, again, very heavy dragon. It's hard to actually have a lot of dragons so you can get a good percentage of getting those buffs and those those added battle cries. So you really have to lace it with some of the top end dragons. And then let's see, what else is there that's kind of interesting? Like every time I play this card, sometimes I feel like I can't even be greedy enough with this deck, because I'm so used to double operatives and double historians.
Right, where you just get so much card draw. But that's one of the things so the big drawback of a typical Reno Priest is it doesn't have enough card draw. You just struggle to keep yourself afloat. You don't see enough of the cards in your deck. You don't have any options. But when you're able to draw, a card out of Operative and a card out of Nether Spite, even in a Reno list, that's still very good, right? Like that's still a very powerful thing. So just the fact that they're getting pseudo card draw in the form of dragon-related cards in a Reno Priest gives them a competitive deck, I think. Otherwise, I think that I much prefer playing the non-dragon deck. But the issue is card draw in that list. And I've played and I've tried it so much in so many ways. And every time I'm just like, if I could draw, 2 or 3 more cards during the course of this game, I would probably be able to get somewhere. But I don't have it. And that's what Dragon Priest does better. And as a result of that, top end, you don't even have to worry about your top end's going to be, right? You already have it figured out. So it takes out the headache out of the equation. So you don't have to worry about what you're going to be winning with. It's a very... I don't say self-building deck, but once you embrace the dragon theme in that deck, you just increase the card count by 10. You just go, all right, here are 10 cards I start with. Now I have to build, and it just helps you narrow down what you want.
Yeah, exactly. It's nice. I think that the Bran into Kazakus is a super important play for this deck. Like, you have to get that because, you never know what Draconet Operative gives you. A lot of times it gives you great things, but, sometimes you never know, right? And same with Nether Spite Historian. You can semi-whiff sometimes. But with Kazakus, you don't whiff very often. It does something very powerful. Well, even if it's just blasting the face and removing the board, all those things are very useful at key times. And, yeah, range for this deck is very, very important. And just how to finish. So that was the main issue I had with the other Reno Priest. It's just like, I don't even know how to finish. Like the Zoth, I guess, or, like, I'm not even sure, like, what the best way
you almost want to just put Ysera and Dragons, and then you realize, well, might as well play Dragon Reno Priest at that stage. If I'm going to put in Nefarian and Ysera at the top end for card advantage, let me just play Dragon Priest.
Right. So. Yeah, so, like, Spawn of Shadows, I think, is probably the best version of it. And that, you have to draw a lot of cards to pull that thing off. But it's fun as crap when you do. When you're just like, okay, I'm resetting my hero power again with another card and resetting it again and another card, and it's actually a funny combo. But and that's the one thing that's very cool about the Priest right now. You can do these these cool gimmicky things with Beardo or Spawn of Shadows and whatchamacallit, Shadow Form, and all those cards that literally reset your hero power so that you can use it again. It's fun. It's definitely OTK possibilities, and I don't know, down the road, if there does come a way that Priest can draw cards, maybe 33% better than they can draw cards right now.
A tiny bit more, yeah, just a little bit more.
It could be something real there, which would be kind of cool. Okay, well, why don't we stay on the Priest, and let's talk about this confused Priest that you have.
It's not a confused priest, it's the Inner Fire Priest.
It's the Inner Fire Priest,
it's going to be like a throwback to your first day in Hearthstone, where you looked at all the cards that existed, and you thought, what can I make out of this, free-to-play roster of cards? And you looked at Divine Spirit, you probably found an Inner Fire somewhere in a pack, and you're like, this is it. This is the deck that's going to beat everyone. You slap in a rare Light Well that you craft for 100 dust, and you just go to town on people at rank 20. And eventually Iron Becal came out, and you realized that won't work.
Yeah.
Well, my kid's crying in the background.
Yeah, it's all good. It's all good.
Sounds like he's dying right now. All right, so the deck is very much about drawing cards and finding the combo. I think one of the big reasons this deck came up as a natural, I guess, something I wanted to return to is because we got Hosen Healer and Cabal Talon Priest. And Cabal Talon Priest is a powered shield on legs, right? It's just like 3 mana, give +3 health to something, and you can use that extra health to not only draw cards with Northshire, keep your minion healed up with Circle of Healing, trade on the board nicely to give yourself extra survivability, but in the worst case scenario, it's a Dark Cultist. It just comes out on the board as a 3 mana 3/4, or a Spider Tank rather, and it just does its own thing. And one of the fantastic things about the deck is that because you play Hosen Healer, you have a 2/6 there that, when combined with Akanai Soul Priest, lets you kill anything. There's a Ragnaros on the board. You go Akanai Soul Priest into Hosen Healer, and you deal all the damage, that the minion has in health to it. So if the minion has 8 health, it takes 8. You restore it to full health, you kill it. It's kind of like renoing yourself with Akanai on the board, except onto a minion. So suddenly you don't need Flash Heal, or at least you don't feel like you need them as much. And you can spend your other cards onto stuff like Loot Hoarder to cycle faster, Acolyte of Pain to draw into the combo quicker. Now, whether this deck is optimized or not is probably another question. I don't think I've optimized the list. I think there is a lot of merit to including, say, a one of Embrace the Shadows with maybe the Flash Heal somewhere in there, but then I want to go for, Prophet Velen, and how deep do I want to go down that hole before I go back in? It's not the same deck, but it's been great fun.
Yeah.
For now, I've stagnated with this deck. I'm rocking a 50 to 55% win rate at like rank 8. So it's not good, but it certainly is a deck you can play up to there and have a decent amount of fun with.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely like a lot of aspects of it. I mean, the removals that the removal from Priest has always been one of the strongest things. I think it's really hard though to keep some of those minions alive. Like it would be cool if you would have, to be honest, just some of the dragons, like any of the 2/4s.
I know, right?
And then the one it always leads back to dragons for Priest. It's kind of funny.
It's kind of annoying, honestly. That's what annoyed me when I was building it, but sure.
Yeah. So, but I do like the Hosen Healer. Like, if it wasn't such an aggro, like if the aggro meta wasn't such a strong thing right now, so popular right now, I think we might see some more Hosen Healers. Like if Druid became like the most powerful deck right now, the Kun Druid or the any of the druids that have large minions, then we could, I think the Hosen Healer would have a lot more effect, because the removal is the power of that card. It's not the heal itself. It's actually the removal, because the removal part. It's very rare that you want to heal a minion up to full health.
I'll say something though. There's I tried a variant of this with Fel Auric Soul Fiend, the 3 mana 3/7 that damages itself.
Yeah.
And I tried that with the Injured Blade Master, right? Like in the typical priest fashion.
Yeah,
and
right.
Hosen Healer actually did amazing work when it came down on turn 4. But it's like, what do I do in my 3 drops? Do I cut the Talon Priest? That sounds inane. Do I cut Acolytes? Where's my card draw for the combo play at that stage?
Right.
So it became more of a Tempo Priest, but a Tempo Priest is better served with dragons. So why go with this route?
Exactly.
And it always goes back to the dragons.
I do want to say one thing. well, actually, just kind of finishing off this deck. There's Circle of Healings, there's Inner Fires, there's Divine Spirits. Just for removal, there's some Pint-Sized Potion, Potion of Madness, and and Wild Pyromancer, Acolyte of Pain, and Loot Hoarder for draw. 1 Doomsayer. So a lot of removal, and then you're just going for that combo. I did want to say one thing about Inner Fire, because I actually think that Inner Fire is, like, we look at it too much from the standpoint of OTK, but that card is actually, similar to +3 attack, but potentially better. You know what I mean? Like, but even if we use it as a +3 attack right now on the priest cards, that's actually really good. Like if we not maybe +3, maybe it's +2, +3, somewhere in there. But if you make like a Northshire Cleric 3/3, or let's say you just buff it with a Power Word Shield and then inner fire it, even at 5/5, that's really strong. That's like putting a 4/4 Edwin Van Cleef down, like on turn 2 or something like that. And you might blow through some cards, but that particular play, you can actually recover cards and keep board, right? While you're trying to get to, if it's a dragon deck, you're trying to get to turn 4 and turn 5 in dragon decks. So the Inner Fire tool, it has a lot of utility in very subtle ways too. It's just nobody ever uses it in that subtle way.
I mean, this deck kind of does, right? With Hose and Healer, like, I rarely get the OTK. Actually, I've only gotten it once. Usually it's like I have this 2/6 and this 3/5 and this 3/4 on the board, and this is my board, and then I Inner Fire one of them and keep stuff alive somehow, and that's the way we end up winning. So I agree with you. I think that card is largely undervalued as a straight up damage tool, and it can be used to do gimmicky stuff, right? Where you go like Pint-Sized Potion with Potion of Madness, Inner Fire, and then you restore the attack of the minion to smash into something. You can use the Inner Fire as a way to enable Shadow Word Death on a minion that's like, the minion is like a 3/8. You're like, I need to kill this right now. Or Ysera's out. You just go Inner Fire Death, and otherwise you had no answer. There are some cases where you can use that as a removal tool, or removal setup.
Inner Fire is, it's one of those spells that is just not used, even though it has such great versatility. And Priest is full of cards like that. I've been wanting to use Power Word Glory forever. Like actually just shutting down some kind of aggro decks. Some super powerful card, but I can never fit it in. It's like
I know
it sucks. It's like, God, I want to fit it in, and then when I play it, and I play like Wild Pyro, for instance, right? Just have some synergy with it. It just dies. They just crash that exact minion into my Wild Pyro. So it's just like, come on, man.
Feels bad, man.
Exactly, right? So there are a lot of cool cards like that with Priest. It's just a matter of making them all gel together somehow. And they're starting to do it. You're starting to see, Priest of the Feast and things like that. So it's I think eventually we'll get there, and you'll be able to unlock 90% of the priests. It's kind of like the brain, the human brain,
Yeah.
The priest.
It's only 10% of priests use their brain. Oh wait, that's not what I meant. As far as priests go, I think there are a lot of fun decks to experiment with and discover out there. With there are many ways to the OTK. There's the whole Confuse Inner Fire shenanigan. There's the Mind Blast Velen, or the Flash Heal. There's the Auction Master Beardo, Raza, the Chain,
so
Infinite Spawn of Shadows. And the thing is, like, even if these decks may not be heavy, I guess, powerhouses or juggernauts in the meta, there's still decks you can play to enjoy Hearthstone, because at its core, I think Hearthstone is very much about those fun decks and not so much about getting to Legend. I mean, for me, at the very least, I think that goal is something that it's already been attained. It's not something that keeps me alive, and it doesn't keep my love with the game going. To me, it's all about these interactions, and Priest is probably the best class for that. Yeah,
to make plays, Priest is the class for that, and it's a lot of fun. Okay, well, why don't we move on to... all right, you got Murloc Shaman. Like, come on, we've all played the Murloc Shaman to finish the Murloc. To finish the Murloc deck. We've all done it. So I've had my share of it, too. So I kind of want to see this, man.
Well, I didn't go I didn't half measure it. So this is one of 3 iterations that I had, okay? This is the all-in Murloc list: double Tiny Fin, Oracle, double Tidecaller, Finley, double Blowgill Sniper, which is amazing against pirates. Let no one tell you otherwise. Double Bluegill with Flame Tongue works very well. Double Tidehunter, Cold Light Oracle as a one of, and of course the War Leader, Cold Light Seer, Finja, and every Fin is awesome in a Bloodlust. So we have 2 of every Fin and 1 Bloodlust with the double call in the finishers to make sure that we have a full board. So the goal of the deck is really to create this scenario where you're constantly, refilling the board, because a board with, say, Murloc Tidehunter and another Murloc, right? Like we're talking you play 2 cards, and the opponent often has to use something like Maelstrom Portal or Demon Wrath for fear that you have like a Flame Tongue Totem and more damage output. And then you get in, call in the finishers, and suddenly they have another wave of Murlocs to worry about.
Yeah.
And then that means everything is awesome, costs only 3 on turn 5. So they're worried about that at that stage. So what I think is fascinating about the Murloc deck, even though this may not be the best deck or the best list out there for sure, is you have a few Murlocs, not many of them, that cost as much as they reduce the cost of Everything is Awesome. So Everything is Awesome, when you play a 1-cost Murloc, costs you 1 less. So effectively, that Grimscale Oracle was, it's a 3-mana 1/1. I mean, a 3-mana 3/3, 1-mana 3/3. Sorry, that allowed you to play Everything on top of it. Now, when you slap in call in the finishers, you get 4 Murlocs for 4 mana. That's true as well. It essentially ramps up Everything just as fast as it puts out Murlocs. But the only card that does like a net gain is the Tiny Fin. For 0 mana, you get a Murloc, and it's giving you a coin for Everything is Awesome because it reduces its cost by 1. So if you set up the right board, so you go Finja on turn 5, you kill something, you bring out 2 Murlocs, now you have 3. You play if calling the finishers, now you have 7. Everything is Awesome is free. So with Finja, Everything is Awesome is kind of an automatic segue after calling the finisher. So they've created this pocket of self-contained combo and Shaman to make Everything is Awesome good in the expansion. And I feel like it's underappreciated because they went out of their way to make call in the finishers be exactly 4 Murlocs, because Finja gave you a net 3 Murlocs at the end of the day. It's so awesome. I just love that Blizzard did that.
Everything is awesome.
Yeah.
No, I agree with you. I think that certain aspects of this deck feel like the Evolve deck. Because the call in the finishers with anything is awesome. Basically makes you 4 3/3s, guys. I mean that's not easy to remove. It's much more removable. It's much more removable than the Doppelganger Evolve, but it is a 2-card play that fills the board that gives you a Bloodlust finish, like a threat to finish, which is like a 24 damage hit. So when I was winning games with it, I was winning that way. I even played a deck where I just dropped all the other
and just won anyway.
I dropped all the other Murlocs and just played the call the finishers and just with other stuff, like almost like the Evolve deck without Evolve, and Doppelganger, and it functioned pretty similar. But I do have to say that it's Finja is pretty fun to play. I think Finch is still the best when you only limited it to Bluegills and the War Leaders, because those are the 2 that don't have battle cries for one, and those are the ones that War Leader itself affects Finja's ability to survive too. So Finja can actually remove something significant, and not significant, but can do damage or just take whatever more than 4 damage.
How would you feel if Cold Light Seer was, an aura effect instead of?
Oh yeah, the aura effect would be a million times better.
Cold Light Seer feels like it's the glue that holds Murloc together, but it's so expensive. Like if it were a 1-mana 1/2 that gave them all +1 health, it would be better, right? Like because it's just more usable. Right now, it's one of those cards that does something really awesome for the deck, but it's too costly to weave in after like a board flood of Murlocs, and it's just a little bit short of, I think, making it work. I feel like maybe if Finja made the Murlocs trigger their battle cries, what if it read, you bring them out and they trigger their battle cries. Now suddenly we have something. Like the Tidehunter spawns more stuff. Cold Light draws you cards. Cold Light Seer buffs your Murlocs. Now you've got this crazy power.
Then you've got a broken deck. Is what you got.
I don't know, man. Pirates are really
Pirates. They get that edge in the beginning, but you're talking about this deck. This deck would just get momentum very quickly on turns 3 and 4. And
but they've only got Finja, right? They only got Finja as a one of. They would need another like really good legendary for the archetype to be pushed into like overpowered territory, I think.
But Aura is definitely the right way to go though, because the weakness to the bluegill on purpose is the 1 health. Everything has 1 health, like almost like literally like 14 cards here have like 1 health. And if you could just make it 2 health, like if this deck was in, can you imagine a shaman had the grindy, you know, whatever smuggler's crate or whatever? Oh my god, you know, I don't know why it doesn't work in Paladin, you know, sometimes.
I know, right? It feels like it should.
It's like it totally should, but it doesn't, like consistently. So
Bloodlust.
yeah, exactly. But you know, paladins don't have bloodlust. That's the difference. Like they can buff them up and make the murlocs live longer, but they can't finish like very very quickly like shaman. Shaman, you just literally make it last 1 turn and you can win games instantly. So this deck is not like top tier or even tier 3 or any or 4, maybe not even tier 4.
No, nothing like that. It's like the bottom of the barrel like that.
It's not though. It's not. I don't see that. What I was trying to get at is like I don't think it's actually that bad, like tarot bad. This is actually a card a deck you can get wins off of, like in rank 10 and you know maybe a little bit higher. You can surprise people too. It's a typical Murloc deck. You got to draw right. If you draw right, you get your curve, then you always got a good chance. It's tough against pirates.
I mean, I've tried some hybrid lists, right, where I cut like the Urimscale Oracle, I cut out the Tiny Fins, and I play Tunnel Trog, Totem Golem, Feral Spirit, Maelstrom Portal. Even in the Murloc shell, that works. Like that just works naturally because it should. But at that point, like it's a Murloc deck because it has Murlocs, but it's not all in on the theme. So there are ways to go like halfway and still make a Murloc deck happen. But it's getting carried really hard by the Trog, the Golem, and the quote-unquote overpowered shaman tools that they've had for a long time, which are way ahead of the curve in terms of power. So
yeah, card draw is an issue too with this deck. There's so many cheap cards, so it's tough.
Initially I had a Genzo in there instead of Bloodlust, and then I realized I need the finisher, but I think there could still be room for you to cut something and put in the Genzo.
Genzo
as it's
draws.
Another Cold Light basically.
It's pretty cool. I mean, wait, you only draw if you have no cards, right?
No, it's if you have less than 3, you go up to 3. But most decks in the meta always have like more than 3, so it oftentimes doesn't affect them as much.
I'd rather have Jeeves, man. Bring back Jeeves.
I know.
The Jeeves was so much better than that card.
But I like Genzo. I think it's a cool card conceptually.
It's definitely interesting. The fact that he's stealth. Okay, well, let's talk about a good deck. Let's break out at least one good deck during this, which is at least more of a top, I don't know, maybe top 3 or top 2 tier deck, and that's the Egg Druid. And we actually saw the Egg Druid in the show match that we did last week with Firebat and RDU, where Firebat totally mind gamed RDU at the very end in the Druid versus Druid matchup, and it was. I think he banned. What did he ban? He banned, obviously Innervate, and I think he banned. He banned Mulch. So totally showing something where he was gonna bring something big, and then he went the opposite and and got went with the Egg Druid. So RDU banned Innervate and Jade Idol. So
which are not even in
completely here. Whiffed, yeah. And this deck is like it was as pure as you get. So he ran him over basically. But this deck is a Jackie Chan deck, and have you played this deck? This deck is so fun.
I mean, I'm looking at the list now, and I've played my own homebrewed version, which actually ran patches with Bloodsail Corsairs,
right?
Because they're better living roots, basically.
Okay, yeah, I could see that. But yeah, for those of you that listening, it's how many cards is it? 16 cards? I think it's 16 cards. So it's all doubles and a couple singletons. Argent Squire, Dragon Egg, Enchanted Raven, Living Root, Mark of the Lotus, Runic Egg, Sir Finley, Druid of the Saber, Lance Carrier, Mark of the Wild, Mark of Yasharj, Power of the Wild, Mounted Raptor, Savage Roar, Defender of Argus, and Soul of the Forest. And the whole point of this is to get off to a quick start. It could be the eggs. Sometimes it's just literally Enchanted Raven on something, which can be really good. But if you can get you can get minions on the board to stick. Then you run like Mark of the Lotus on it, and then you just get to Soul of the Forest. And then once you get to Soul of the Forest, it's just like, it's pretty much, a lot of times it's just over after that, because the stickiness of your board is gives you so much time to draw, Argus or Savage Roar or Power of the Wild, all of these things. Mark of the Wild is even a pain in the ass, dude, to have to deal with. It just ends up snowballing on you, and a lot of times you just barely lose, but you lose, very consistently.
Yeah,
you lose to it, and it's good. I was like,
it's really tough to stop though. Once it gets the ball rolling, that deck just does degenerate things. It's really quick to get you, low on health and just pressure you. But it's also very quick to simply running out of stuff. Like, that's the big drawback of the deck. But that's true of most aggro decks. And this is one of the pure aggro decks. Like, it doesn't try to disguise itself as something else. It just goes, actually, it's the purest form of token deck. Yeah. Where it just like floods the board, buffs it, and it says, if this board is gone, I'm dead, so fuck it. This is my shot, and they just go in. And it's really cool to see.
Exactly, it's good to see this type of archetype, and I mean, it's just awesome to have that. Give your opponent the dilemma right off the bat. You play like Dragon Egg. What are you gonna do?
Wait, what? Yeah,
are you
exactly.
Gonna spend and kill it and leave my 2/1, which like everybody doesn't want to do, but it's actually the right play, I think, in a lot of times where you just remove the egg. Because the egg ends up getting them 2 whelps a lot of times, and that's when it snowballs out of control for them. So yeah, it's kind of crazy. It's like you have to take inefficient plays in the beginning just to deal with this deck in the future. But really, really fun. You guys should give it a try if you guys are running into a lot of pirate deck. This is great against pirates. As long as you get an Argus or just one of these taunts, right? Mark of the Wild but normally the eggs, they won't touch the eggs, right? And then the eggs are just basically the way to flood the board over them. And they have
you can force them to touch the egg, right? With Mark of the Wild, I think that's where you get them into a really awkward spot. Like between Mark of the Lotus, Power of the Wild, Mark of your Charge, there's a lot of spots where they're just like, oh, now I can't ignore this egg. It's going to get value trades, spawn stuff. Yeah. And put me on the back foot. It's a beautiful deck.
And it's like, guys, with a coin, I think people forget how powerful Enchanted Raven into Mark of Yasharj is. Yeah. Mark of Yasharj is. It's just like, it's incredibly strong, and it's like a 2-turn, and you draw a card too. And then on top of that, you can like Mark of the Wild. I mean, you can Mark of the Wild the Enchanted Raven too, and it's like crazy strong. So the first 2 turns for this deck are ones that can rival the Pirate, which is surprising. But if you can get any kind of momentum early on against pirates, you just win. So that's why this deck does so well.
I mean, the taunts are just so good at stopping them. They're so small, and they're stopping huge weapons and Kor'kron elites. It just feels bad for the pirates.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's really bad against the decks that have AoE, like Reno Lock and like Shaman in the mid-range area. Like those will just wreck you very often. They're flame tongue totems. It's just like, it feels bad. But against a big chunk of the meta that doesn't have the AoE, that's hyper aggro, that can work pretty well.
Yeah. Absolutely. Okay, well, I think those are the decks that we had for today. Again, you guys that might not be able to see it, or didn't relay enough of the cards, you guys can always find the show notes on ChanManV.tv. I always post just all the show information, links to the VODs, the audio links, and everything. You can find them there, and we have links to the decks there too. But wanted to give a quick shout out to the iTunes folks, a lot of the folks that listen to Valuetown and find us through just iTunes and the Hearthstone section. They leaving a 5-star review, leaving a nice comment helps a lot. It helps the SEO a lot in that section. So if you do listen to the show via that route, iTunes, please go in there and leave a 5-star review if you haven't, because it would be awesome if you did. I do want to give a few shout outs to a couple people that have. Adam Alter and Love Me Some Politics. Yes, we do, especially in the U.S. these days, I think.
Yes, I think. Well, I mean, you've had your fair share of it, so I'm gonna let that rest.
Exactly.
I'm gonna let it rest.
We've had too much politics. Holy crap! But yeah, thanks a lot for leaving that review and just some of the nice words that you've left there. It's awesome. Also, our patrons. also our awesome patrons who are the ones that support the show. Value Town is 100% supported by the Patreon that we have, and we're up to 87 patrons now, which is so amazing and unbelievable, given that 2 months ago we had half of that, maybe even less than half of that.
Less than half for sure. We've had such incredible support from you guys over the past month and a half, 2 months even. It's been amazing. And of course, that's a continued effort. So we're at 87. We can definitely get to 100 at some point. So if anybody is watching this and wants to participate in supporting the show, feel free to do so. Just hop on a Patreon, pledge a little bit of support, and you'll be shouted out to occasionally. Plus, we also have a crazy good segment coming right up as a result of that Patreon, I believe, right?
Yes, Smilestone is coming up right after we give a shout out to a few of our patrons.
Sure.
Big thanks to our legend producers, Mike T and Louis G, as always, and then a few other patrons that are have been generous enough to pledge and support us: Johnson C, Davin P, Devin W, David G, James R, Vince F, Thomas O, Michael O, Lance B, Daniel F, and Eugene L. I feel like I'm going through baby names and trying to figure out what I should name my next child, but you guys are definitely on that list, and amazing. Big thanks to you guys. And again, like, we're able to do this show in 2017, and because of that, we've continued to reach that milestone that we have there, and we're looking forward to having some awesome shows, particularly in January here. But now, yes, now it's time. Now it's time. I wasn't completely prepared. Oh no! Hold on a second.
You'll be fine, ChanManV.
Kill time.
Okay, so you have to rub your cheek muscles and everything just to make sure that that's very relaxed. We've got a Smilestone segment when we're gonna not awkwardly stare at the camera for as long as we can humanly bear to do so. As a thank you to all the people who pledged on Patreon and made us smile the day that it happened.
All right, here we go.
Is that the way this works?
Yes, that is the way they're here.
Count it down, ChanManV.
The music's starting. Here we go. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. That music. I don't think Noxious should hear the music, but I should make it so he can hear it. Okay, all right, nice. Woo. You guys enjoyed
that? Oh my
gosh, yeah, that was a good run. That was a good run.
That's enough for the day.
That's enough for the day. Exactly, enough. But yeah, thanks a lot again, folks, for the Patreon, and we're gonna keep doing Smilestone as long as we keep it there. And we got another milestone too, which is, I believe, making some Hearthstone voice lines. Like, will make some voice lines for you guys that you can use on your phone and creep people out with our voices. So you can try that out. Okay, well, next up, did you want to do your wish list thing, or did you want to do Mekkatorque next?
I guess it's an important topic. It's a list of topics that I'd like to tackle. We had XR actually on Reddit or on Twitter, send out a call to people and say, what do you guys want to see out of Hearthstone for 2017? And I think we should maybe get some topics in. I'll take the ones I thought were the most important. Of course, there's tournament mode. I won't even talk about that. We've already discussed this issue to death. Tournament mode would be good. I would like to see, spectator mode being fixed. We've already tackled that. So those are kind of the side issues. They're very important, but they're not novel in any way. I think one of the big focuses for 2017 should be the social aspect of Hearthstone. Right now, when you log into Hearthstone, your only social interaction is either 6 pre-made emotes for your character, or your friend list and the chat that you have, which incidentally is frustrating to use because it's so invasive. I mean, I personally dislike chatting to someone on the Battle.net client, or in Hearthstone, that is, because my game is hidden. Every menu UI option is hidden. I can't see anything but the chat. So I think the in-game social experience is pretty bad. And I think we are due for guilds. We are due for a guild system where we can create a guild, invite people in, and have a chat room to talk to them between games, like a lobby to which we're returned to talk with friends that maybe we just would like to talk to in group as opposed to just being a one-to-one thing. And there's so much you can do with the guild system. Guild achievements. All right, did everybody play 10 Moonfires today? Whatever the fucking case may be. Is there like a month quest or a guild quest that says play 100,000 Moonfires, and that's like a long-term goal, and everyone in the guild, whoever plays Moonfire, contributes 1 cast to that experience bar, and at the end of it we unlock a special Moonfire for everybody in the guild. Like, just one of those really cool things that you could make happen with the guild system. Achievements, rewards. If you have a guild event, you could have like a 2v2 mode, if that's ever a thing, where you can do that. Maybe a tavern brawl with the guildmate as a quest, a guild quest. So it adds another roster of quests on top of the 3 original ones we've got. I personally would love to have guilds in Hearthstone.
Okay, yeah, I think that's an excellent idea. I mean, we already kind of do those sort of things via Skype and just like the social aspect. I mean, people do co-ops all the time. We're using like Skype and all this audio. We actually have voice chat now on Battle.net. Like, we might as well use it in Hearthstone, and figure out a way where we can have more of a co-op experience. I know they don't want to promote that like necessarily on the highest of the ladder, and have that sort of thing. But from the standpoint of a casual Hearthstone, that is an excellent feature to have. To be able to share an experience and play together. Co-op Hearthstone is good. It doesn't have to be PvE or anything like that. It can just be literally just playing together against somebody. For me, I'm looking at even just simpler things, and I've said it before, and I wish they would just do it, because I don't feel like it's that hard of a thing to do. Keep all of us that are, quote unquote, done with doing everything in the game, like, engaged. Yeah, keep us engaged. Like, give us more levels to achieve with the classes. I mean, that is like literally just ticking up a number, like that's the max levels for each of the classes. Like, why don't you just raise those and make us feel like we're achieving something every time we're finishing games too, on top of climbing ladder. Because it's those little things. It's those little things that make it a little bit less frustrating mentally, when we're playing Hearthstone. It's like, oh God, man, fucking lost again, shit. But if you're giving me something in terms, whether it's XP or whatever it is on top of that, then it feels a little bit better. Another thing too, like, let's go beyond gold cards and let's get some platinum cards and some cool shit like that we can get excited about whenever we get just the same
new
cards.
Frame, right?
Yeah, a new frame.
Frame at the top. How about we could unlock that somehow? I mean,
yeah,
that's another criticism I've got, and the single player progression isn't there.
Yeah,
like we just kind of don't have any.
Yeah, there's nothing to keep the just individually being motivated to play the game outside of the quest for gold, which is like future efficiency in terms of buying packs and playing arena, whatever it is, and just ranking up in ladder. It's like, look at all these other games. I mean, please. There's been tons. I mean, I used to make mobile games, and mobile games are a perfect example. There's all these freaking mind game achievement things that, it's like I'm happy to have Hearthstone just do that to me. Just do those mental manipulations to me to keep me playing.
Well, they're progression paths, really. Like what we're asking for basically is. So we've got these progression paths that are obvious. The ladder system, rank up, get chests, complete collection. The collection is actually a progression path. Like, it's not a path, but it's something you're progressing towards, getting a full collection. Gold cards are another layer of that. The ranks that you get, the arena runs, and how good you are at them. But ultimately, like, the vanity progression only exists in golden heroes right now and golden basic cards, right? That's exactly what we've got for vanity, that and paying $10 for a JPEG. But it's
that's pretty much a couple sounds too,
because you can't really get those things from gold, right? So it's not really a progression path as much as a cosmetic microtransaction. But when I look at progression, I'm thinking an achievement. I've talked about this before.
New emote for achievement.
Like, give me an achievement that reads, during the period of of the Halloween period, if I do some deck or another, if I play like 1,000 in Death Rattle minions during the Halloween season, whatever the name of that, Hallow's End, I think it's called in WoW. Whenever I do that during that period, then give me the ability to have like a pumpkin hat on my character, or a pumpkin showing up on the board instead of little radish, right? Like, just give me something that I can work towards that is not a quest, because quests in the way that they're made daily, or like we already have sort of achievements, and the first time you do X, get something, reach 1,000 wins, get something, unlock all the heroes, get a pack. Like, those are quote unquote achievements, but they're really just quests that help you progress, but there's no vanity that comes out of it. It's all actually about your cards and your collection, and that's it. That's all it's helping you do, and it gets kind of old.
Yeah, I mean, it's something that might, like, it would be cool if an achievement like gave you a new emote or something like that. And I mean, even if it doesn't mean, changing the UI, because I know the UI is like one of the biggest things that takes the longest to change, as we know with just the number of decks, right? The deck slots took us years, to finally get. So if we're keeping the UI as similar as possible, then it'd be nice to even just get a different like emote given an achievement, or just something.
Get sorry back.
Yeah, well, something that signifies that you've played a ton of this game. Yeah. That not just a little bit. Like you're a new player that's, I don't know, done some iPhone or some Apple promo and gotten something like that. It's something that where you've achieved like a level 100 in a shaman or something like that. I think it'd be nice to add some of those vanity things to Hearthstone. We're missing. Mm-hmm.
Have you played Eternal, the trading card game online? I mean, the CCG, not trading, sorry.
No, I haven't.
Okay, because they have this thing in the profile menu where you can actually change your emotes. You can choose what your greeting is going to say. You can choose what your thanks is going to say. Mm-hmm. When you start the game, is that when you hit the little button where greetings is usually located, you get to pick between 5 things. One of them can be "Let's go" or "Happy to see you here," or like you can choose the one you want.
Right.
And
it's like a wheel.
We don't have this.
Yeah.
But also, like I feel like Blizzard would have had to record a bunch of voice packages. But I mean, is that really? But I was gonna say, is that really something they haven't done? Is that something? I can't believe they've only made greetings, friend, for shaman. Like, there's no way. The guy who was in the voice box probably said 100 different lines that came off the top of his head.
All I know
is that's the way it's done.
All I know is Matt Mercer, who does Rexar. I mean, he's freaking done all the McCree voice lines, okay, for Overwatch. I think they can manage like getting more voices done for these heroes.
Don't speak about the Overwatch.
I'm just
team.
No, I'm just saying like voice lines. I don't think voice lines is an issue. So
I agree.
But yeah, I think those would be cool. In terms of gameplay, I don't know. I think that there's
the arena.
Arena. Okay.
I would like Arena to be slightly revamped or at least expanded upon. I don't mind Arena in its current state.
Yeah.
I would love to see, of course, golden heroes and golden cards. If you get 12 wins with the deck, then by virtue of whatever, every single card in your deck would henceforth be drafted as golden. So if you ever reach 12 wins, it's a good status
that's interesting.
for you to have. But what I would like to see the most done is, if not an overhaul, then an inclusion of a new mode called the Coliseum. You get to pick 45 cards, and you build a 30-card deck out of them. Instead of picking 30 cards and having a 30-card deck, you either make the arena be 45 and then deck build down to 30, or you go ahead and make it so Coliseum is a new mode that's less obvious or more advanced players of the drafting, gameplay. I like game modes, and I think Hearthstone needs to have more of them in the future.
Yeah, I like it too. I think game modes, though, are one of the things that take the longest for them to actually do. So, not holding my breath, I guess I had to say on those. So I'm just trying to figure out things that are like, low-hanging fruits for them, that they can, they can pull off without many resources, or at least what I think of as that would be expensive. So yeah, I mean, I think outside of that, I'm happy with the game. I mean, I don't think I might be different than a lot of folks, but there are a lot of people that still love Hearthstone, and I definitely am in that bucket. I don't think it needs too much to really push the casual side of things. And I'm somewhere between casual and like the ultra competitive person at this point. Because tournament mode would be great. I think tournament mode would be great, but at the same time, I'm okay with ladder 2 right now.
Yeah.
So it's I don't know what XR was looking for exactly. I wish it would be a little bit more specific, as to
I think
how
it's
much
very broad. It's it's like a wide net they're casting and hoping to get any type of feedback.
Yeah. So, a lot of these things we've already talked about too, and that's kind of one of the reasons why I don't want to necessarily rehash all the things that we've said. But yeah, but wish list, I definitely want to see new stuff that, not just cards, new facets to the actual,
it's too easy to make cards.
Yeah.
No, but I mean it truthfully. It is like the easiest part. Like I feel like the easiest part of designing a card game is coming up with cards. It's the rest that's tough, and that's what we want more of. Because you've proven you can deliver cards. Like we know that. Like we've gotten it now. You have a schedule. You give us like a few hundred cards every year, and we're like, okay, they know how to make cards. And then the question is, how can they implement their effects in game, the engineering behind every card?
Yeah.
But our question is, what else do we get to do in this game aside from the same game mode every single day, in and out, with no big variation on it? Like we don't get a daily tavern brawl, we get a weekly tavern brawl, and then there's 2 days is down. So it feels like the amount of variance or variability of my gameplay isn't crazy big. And I think it's even worse for newer players who don't have Lore Walker Cho to fuck around with, or Mayor Noggin Fogger to fuck around with. Like they just don't have all those cards, and I don't know. I feel like the between all those those points they could expand on, there's got to be something that everybody can agree on, and I feel like at least the social aspect is a big one.
Oh, one thing I did forget is, and one thing I'd love to have is just personal stats. I think it would be awesome just to be able to see. I mean, even high level stuff, very, very high level. Right now, all we see are wins in constructed, or in wins in arena. That's like literally all we see. And like, if there was, any additional high global kind of numbers, or maybe a little bit of granularity, how many wins I actually have in each class, or what my winning percentage is, just things like that. I think that would be really, really great, just to have a profile that actually gives me some of those stats. Completely new UI, so you don't have to change the existing UI, just build a new one. So it's literally, action, click on this, and then you can start like a completely new things. I mean, all the mobile users might get pissed off that it's like even bigger now. Oh my god, now I got to download another update that's like even freaking bigger now. But like I think they'll be okay if they get something added that's actually new. But
I will say one thing,
I'd like to see that.
I would like Blizzard to dissociate the development of PC and mobile a bit more. I understand they don't want to give PC users options or features that mobile users don't get, because mobile is such a huge part of their market.
True.
But I think there are things that are just harder to do on mobile, right? Like giving a tournament platform, right? Like an application you have to register to then play on a tournament, for instance, that's external to the client. That is probably a bit harder to do on mobile. I'm sure it's doable, but on a phone, maybe not so much. On a tablet, maybe a bit easier. Just as a result, it's the same thing, like from the back like the work from the back end. But as far as playing the game, I feel like it's a lot tougher to do a tournament mode, scroll between windows on a phone for the user, not for the developers. That's an irrelevant thing. So I feel like maybe giving features that require more bulky UI space to PC users, or configuring the aesthetic of it differently based on the platform is, I mean, it would be nice just to have like bigger elements on PC. They've already done it, but I think it's not pushed enough. Like the differences are minor at best.
Yeah, I hear you. Even I think even replays I think would be nice too. If we had, I mean, that's now we're starting to reach like way beyond. But a replay system I think would be nice, just to one thing I think a lot of Hearthstone players aren't able to do is replay just what their games were, and really be able to look at what your mistakes are. Like, I'm sure your average Hearthstone players makes the same mistake over and over and over, and I think being able to look at your replays and seeing how like a certain play on turn 5 ended up resulting in turn 9, some the board, how it resulted in a couple turns or 3 or 4 turns afterwards, is a good way for folks just to learn how to get better. And it's actually a good way for, even if you do want coaching in Hearthstone, for folks to be able to do that with you, because I think the most inefficient way to coach in Hearthstone is to coach a live game.
A live game, yeah. It's almost never good.
It's not good because you're not fixing problems in a very efficient manner. You're just like on the fly seeing if he makes a, if he has an issue or not at that given moment.
There's no analysis. You can't pause and then analyze the play. You have to tell them what to do or correct the issue, and then they move on and they're like, I don't remember that lesson now. Because it was too quick. The games go by very fast. So I mean, to be fair, you can just record yourself like on video, but it'd be nice to have the ability to do it in game because it's there. There are like emulators that people have made that just use the script that from the log file or just the script file, and then it just recreates the actual game in an emulator. Just something that looks uglier than the actual game itself. So given we have the spectator mode, I don't know if the spectator mode is used in the same way or if it's actually, I don't think it pulls from the actual view of the games. I'm getting like technical talk here, but if it just it just uses the client to recreate what the script is anyways. So I think a replay probably functions in a similar fashion, but it'd be cool if we could get that. I guess is all I'm trying to say. Anyways, if you guys have any other cool things to really suggest, so go ahead and email those right now to valuetown@chanmanv.tv, and we'll take a look at them during the Q&A section.